A great hello, curmudgeons of mine own, the very bonds that hold life dear, as an ethereal sap does on to this plane, bid our company, which rests the wicked wounds whole, to lock threads and twist what fate grants. Thanks for attending my TED Talk. Anyway, this is Restaurant to Another World, a pretty neat food anime. In the distant land of Japan, there exists a restaurant by the name of Nekoya, where a samurai, wizard, caveman, and cat argue over what dish goes best with white rice. The lizard wishes to join, but cannot express itself through verbal communication. Suddenly, a battle breaks out over a slice of pork loin cutlet. The clash is fierce, but the primitive uses stealth to intervene, causing a new passion for food to be born. As the catalyst for the skirmish falls to the floor, violence emerges from the haunting scene. However, the master threatens the squabblers with banishment, and they return to tranquility. A gentle chime signals the departure of the day's penultimate customer, an imminent arrival of the last. Here she is, preparing to begin the ritual by taking human form. She monologues about being a powerful ancient creature, and bounces elegantly into her ceremonial garb. Her dish of choice is bifu stew, which is prepared and relished to excess. It's got them chunks, so you know it's good. 3 gold coins purchase an additional vat, and upon returning to her lair, the dragon spends the next week delicately sucking on the sauce. 4 a.m. Time to get to work. What's this? A stray vagrant sprawled upon the kitchen floor. She awakens, confused and apologetic for having eaten all the sauce wizard's soup. Her name is Aletta, and last night, after struggling to sate her hunger with a pathetic nugget, was lured into Nekoya by the exotic scent of Western cuisine. The interior is foreign and mysterious. However, the soup untangled any web of apprehension, and Alberta was rendered unconscious from delight. Anyway, she figures that the master would immediately resort to racism because of her demonic heritage. This presumption incites a brief explanation of her past, where she found a job in the royal capital as a waitress and was promptly fired for having tiny little goat horns. The master, after hearing all of this, laments his lack of breakfast and invites Aletta to join him. She is hesitant but accepts. The master whips up a brekkie with the skill and grace of 500 Chef Boyardees, impressing the plebs with his culinary prowess. She partakes of the bread, leaves, and meats. The master is pleased. After the luxurious meal, Alexa is offered employment. She'll be working as a waitress once every 7 days. On the day she works, it'll be a 14-hour shift, paying 10 silver shekels a day, with 3 meals on the house. This is considered a good deal, as 10 shekels goes a long way in medieval fantasy land. Meanwhile, bifu stew senses a change in the treasure box that is Nekoya. Aletta obtains a sensual bathing scene and transforms into a proper waitress using Japan's magical goop in traditional maid attire. The dragon is pleased by Nekoya's new employee and flies off to grant divine protection over her. Isekai Laura Croft rifles through a journal vaguely mentioning a mysterious object that appears every 7 days on the day of Saturn. It's Sarah Gold, renowned treasure hunter and avid explorer. She encounters some aggressive green children who are quickly dispatched. Then she enters a hidden chamber leading to Nekoya, the restaurant to another world. Upon opening the portal, she brandishes her blade and is met with a demon. The master takes over negotiations, concluding that she must have arrived through Williamson's door. He goes on to explain that according to the wizard from episode 1, Nekoya is a kind of interdimensional space that uses isekai magic to appear in various places. Anyway, the food served here is pretty good, so Sarah relents to stick around for a bit. Her curiosity increases with every passing moment. The liquids are crisp, and the menu is exotic and overwhelming. Sriracha decides to opt for ease and orders the daily special, which by some quirk of fate was Williamson's favorite dish, minced meat cutlet. This statement by the master convinces her that this place must be her grandfather's final treasure, and the cutlet is served alongside a sauce and lemon. Every last bit is cherished for the sheer complexity of the flavor, and upon drizzling the additives, Sarah seethes into vegetative bliss over the divine quality of the meal. The usuals arrive to find a couple of newcomers. As Sarah finishes her lunch, the master sends her off with some cutlets to go, out of respect for Williamson, and is informed that he danced peacefully into that vast good night, likely being at least slightly vast vexed by no longer being able to visit Nekoya. The elderly homies reminisce about their old pal Willie and ponder the second coming of minced meat cutlet in the female form. Meanwhile, Captain Heinrich Sealman has a visitor, Tetsugoro, the legendary foreign swordsman. He prepares for battle, heeding the nature of Tatsugugu's notoriety. However, Tetsugoro is a homie, come to deliver something lost 3 years ago. To avert the promise of destruction by Mothman Horde, Sealman-san heroically thrust himself into the wildlands to deliver an urgent request for reinforcements. However, the path was treacherous, and without horse and supplies, he succumbed to lack of preparation, calling out to the great god of the sea to provide. And they did, I guess. The master handles Sealman-san gracefully, despite the situation, and informs him about the nature of Nekoya's existence. Sealman is confused by all kinds of things, failing to gain anything by his outbursts. He instead finds that they sell shrimp here, and falls into the nostalgic chasm promised by fried shrimp. The crisp juice stands no chance against Steely Dan's voracious thirst, and the shrimps arrive, gleaming and splendid, but taking a strange cylindrical shape. A bite is had. The shrimp is indeed a shrimp. The marvelous combination of oils, breading, meat, and tartar sends Heinrich into a feverish display of mankind's gluttony. He orders more. After having partaken of his lavish meal, the realization that he has no money causes him to give away his family sword as collateral. The master attempts to refuse, but Sealman-san is on urgent business and pieces out without argument or explanation. Due to his valiant efforts and Nekoya's intervention, he was able to save the lives of many of his kinsfolk, and as such was granted nobility. However, upon returning to the blessed cabin, he found no restaurant. Tableau Gobo understands exactly why this is, and, as an acquaintance of the master, invites our eager knight to join him for dinner on the day of Saturn, and so Sealman-san arrives to dine after 3 years of delay. Aletta enjoys a hodgepodge of goop the master flung together, as a child explains that this guy named Thomas invented noodles and became vastly wealthy with a variety of pasta sauces. He has a nasty, filthy, dirty little secret, though. The key which lies behind this precious door. The time has come to show his grandson, Sirius, the trick to his trade, and they enter into the restaurant to another world. As usual, the alien landscape confounds the newcomer, but they settle eventually. The standard coffee arrives, and Slurpius learns how to drink, after which Thomas and the master exchange goods. The restaurant's day of Saturn profits, in exchange for various Isekai foods. Like a true artisan, the master uses the ingredients to match the otherworlder's taste to the food he creates. Now to the real business. Time for 2 extra large spaghettis. Syrup is confused by the resemblance to their own product as Thomasus partakes. The exquisite savoriness explodes the young Siri's supple mind with its complexity. He reflects on the cubes which create red sauce, but little does he know that on Earth the tomats are round. The secret is uncovered. Thomas has been poaching the efforts of Restaurant Nekoya for his own gain, although he insists that he ultimately just wanted to have spaghetti outside of the master's domain, and his empire of noodles was just an after effect. The dust is cheese, and the sauce has that spice. Thomas ponders whether he should steal some cheese for the company, but departs instead, as he is fixing to retire soon. Anyway, Sirius is given full reign over the magical door, and is officially entrusted with the future of their mega corporation. This balding fella receives dire news via bird, and goes to console a child. It's Adelheid, who has come to visit her grandfather alone. She writhes around in her sleep as the elder mulls over techniques for ailing her sorrow. Nekoya, the perfect solution for a troubled child. Many years later, the small Adelheid is now large and recalls the precious memory of eating clouds with her late grandfather, Wilhelm-san. Her mortal illness causes a great deal of distress, and the melancholia has persisted alongside. Circumstances are clearly not ideal for Addie, as there is no cure. The next morning, tea and snacks are required, but a strangely familiar door appears as if to say, "Pathetic. Watch this." Upon opening the portal, Adelheid has a nostalgic flashback to her first visit and is greeted by a letter. The master immediately recognizes the Largelhide as having evolved since last time and gives her a free meal out of respect for her grandfather. She remembers the good times and requests that she consume the clouds, or in layman's terms, a chocolate parfait. The structure presents itself more like an art piece than food, but its vast expanse of flavors, textures, and savoriness confirm confirm otherwise. One brief flashback later, the miasma of despair has cleared, and Adelheid is invited to return weekly. Aletta inquires about Wilhelmsson, who created a little kingdom 50 years ago. That same kingdom eventually grew into the lands known as the Grand Empire, and Wilhelmsson gained the title of the first great emperor. Later, Adelheid frolics through the flowers, unhindered by her frequent sadness, much to the satisfaction of her caring maids. God explains how there are lizards getting freaky in the swamplands, building shacks and hunting their cousins for sport. In one of the many tribes, the champion Gagampo prepares his lithe bod for the weekly ritual by greasing up. He glistens magnificently before the light of the midday sun, while reflecting on fending off numerous challengers. 30 years ago, the great hero Chalupa left forth through the now venerated magic door and returned with the spoils of otherworldly delights, and thus every 7 days since, the tribe's strongest warrior bears the responsibility to barter with the master, every time ordering a large omelette rice and 3 omelette rices to go. At long last, Gagamper may indulge in the mystery of otherworld cuisine. He knows not how to reproduce such a delicacy, but understands the process must be beyond the skills his kin possesses. His meal ends with a satisfied exhale and the delivery of the takeout. The master takes his cut, and Gagampo returns to his tribe to be celebrated as a true hero. The eggs are then tantalizingly displayed for all to see as the divine concoction of ingredients expel a delectable scent which sends the tribesmen into feverish anticipation, waiting for the elders' permission to begin. They have an exuberant ceremony, showing their appreciation by slapping their tails to the ground. Gagampo lets out a hearty slap in satisfaction. Meanwhile, this elf has developed instantaneous botulism and cannot move. She engages in a flashback, departing from home to gather culinary ingredients for the anniversary of her mother's death. An injured forest creature is healed, and the shroomers are harvested. But wait, teleportation magic. A door. She presumes it to be ancient elven magic and enters, finding the place crawling with simpletons. Startled, but nevertheless, she heeds the master's greeting and settles in. However, the liquids are suspect, menu questionable, and company horrifyingly barbaric. She can't possibly eat the food served here, as she is vegetarian. Aletta is concerned and goes to check if there is something the master can cook up. There is a possibility, but the elf remains skeptical and stays as such while her meal is concocted. Later, it's tofu steak with seaweed stock, ponzu sauce, and a side of white rice. It ain't meat, but it sure does taste familiar, like she experienced it as a child. Her mother used to make dried mushroom soup which resembled this tofu stuff. The combination of ingredients together harmonize gracefully, pleasing her delicate elven palate. She remains in shock from being served such a pleasant meal by a mere human. After presumably recovering, she decides to go on a journey to unravel the mysteries of tofu and best the food served by Nekoya's master. Random suckle on the titty. Alatar is shocked that the Catman only orders pork cutlets, which commences the chronicle of Lionel, who is defeated by this pervert and sold into slavery. He eventually ends up as a gladiator, doomed to die in the arena. However, if he can achieve 100 victories, his freedom is guaranteed. Things don't look good though. The master takes over the exposition temporarily to explain how Lionel was a notorious criminal committing war crimes in Demonland, and so earned his way into this sort of punishment. Libby doubts his fair chances in the pit until a mysterious door manifests to distract him. He figures that he's not long for this world anyway, and jumps in, finding the previous master eager to feed him despite Lionel being poor. Lionel accidentally orders a meat which can carry him to victory and awkwardly sits down. The master serves him a small circus tent called Katsudon, derived from katsu, meaning victory in Japanese. Get pranked, it wasn't a circus. It was a delectable meal packed with proteins. Lionel has at it by experiencing rice for the first time and screaming. He finds sorrow at the end of his bowl, but reprieve after being met with some free seconds. And so dish after dish later, Lionel promises to return and heads into battle, inspired by his new love for Katsudon. The fight with the Chimera goes smoothly, and his legend began. Lionel went on to win his freedom in a year, decided to continue being a gladiator, and now seems to be happy just eating katsudon and killing non-stop. Later, Aletta finds it curious that the dessert menu and regular menu were written by different people, then impresses the master with her vast knowledge of cuisine. This is Victoria, elder sister of the Duke, and still unwed due to being born as a half-elf. She is displeased by the pathetic dessert served in the palace and feeds it to the cretins while being hassled about her research. God explains that half-elves are freaks of nature, which are occasionally flayed and eaten alive by humans for being born. Should they avoid that fate, half-elves usually make use of their increased magical capability to become mercenaries or sorcerers, but will sometimes travel to specific niche villages just to chill. Victoria opted for the path of the wizard and became a magical girl, as pictured here. She became so powerful, in fact, that she reached the pinnacle of her profession and began learning under the tutelage of the great sage Artorius, who is a familiar sight. After exhausting his supply of knowledge, Victoria now researches, except once every 7 days, where she visits Nekoya to have a pudding a la mode. She reflects on when she was asked to write the menu for desserts. The pudding arrives in all splendor and is delicately nibbled on, starting with the fruits, then ice creams. Next, the pud, which receives a detailed delineation of the eggs, milk, and saw, then disappears a second later. Before departing, she receives the customary takeout, which confuses Aletta, but allows Victoria to work on her precious refrigeration tech. Albert consumes a nice patat and narrates her life as a waitress, beginning with a sensual bathing scene. She enjoys the wash and fresh clothes, then has breakfast and helps with prep. Sometimes, she even gets to travel in the magic cube to the master's secret granary. This time they retrieve a box of potatoes, but the sight of them gives Aletta PTSD flare-ups. To amend this tragedy, the master offers to show her how to make a mean tater by steaming them, but the first customer arrives before the process is done. It's Sarah Gold, who inquires about Aletta's job situation outside of the restaurant, which isn't great so far. Suddenly, Art arrives to cause a mild disturbance. With his iconic tomfoolery, Aletta muses over the quirks of each customer and their ongoing rivalries about which dish is the best. Today just happens to be one of those days where an argument breaks out over such important matters. This time it's Sarah and Sealman going at it with fervor. The old-timers ride on their high horses like they don't ever argue, but decide that for all who enjoy themselves, they should break up the quarrel. The combatants quickly find they were too heated and amend their ways, and everything returns to its natural entropic state. Suddenly, the old-timers both make bold claims about their personal favorite dishes and reignite the flame which they previously extinguished. Artorius gets carried away to Flavortown with his description of pork cutlet sandwiches. Then Tagamgu proceeds to road trip there with his own exposition on teriyaki sandwiches. The others are shook, and Leonard screams out for more katsudon, creating a domino effect of additional orders and analysis of various sandwich combinations. The master determines that the time of reckoning is at hand once more. As the restaurant descends into madness, the elf breaks free to ask if they have takeout for rice, which sends the master into a culinary frenzy to create the ultimate custom rice balls. The arguments have devolved into each customer ordering their rival's dish of choice to decide once and for all which sandwich is supreme. Aletta is thus once again overwhelmed with the onslaught of orders, but as a skilled waitress is able to perfectly transcribe and deliver them to master. After Miss Bifu Stew takes her leave, our dedicated demon collapses from the intense workflow. Noticing her fatigue, the master recognizes that it is, at last, time for potato, and begins the steaming process, using his neat basket thing. Subsequently, Aletta pierces one with a spear, while the master retrieves the key ingredient, butter. Alternator gives her customary prayer to the god of demons and partakes of the dish. It's a simple meal, but everything about it could hardly be called plain. The way each aspect of the tuber and butter meld together in harmony, and it's gone. Aletta could never have dreamt of having such a delicious potato before meeting the master. And that's the end of part 1 of Restaurant to Another World. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, engage with the platform by liking, commenting, or subscribing if you want to receive more of this kind of thing. I have a Patreon also for those who are feeling generous. That's it. Thanks again. Bye.